And the Democrats make a coordinated attack on Trump and Elon Musk in hands-off rallies all across America. Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, a lot to talk about today. Obviously, the bloodbath in the stock market, huge story. We're going to try to get to that probably a little bit later in the show. But without question now, let's put our cards on the table, as the Germans like to say. The left now is waging an all-out political insurrection against President Trump and against Elon Musk and Doge. On Saturday, far-left Democrat groups, by the way, organized and funded by the Nazi collaborator himself, George Soros. This was Soros all the way. He paid for the buses. He paid for a lot of the activists, the protesters. He paid for the Venmo cards. He paid for it all. And they organized a national, what they called hands-off rally, where there were demonstrations all across the United States in at least 1,000 protests across many cities. The epicenter was in Washington, D.C. at the National Mall, where tens of thousands of anti-Trump shock troops showed up to protest. But it wasn't just Washington. It was Atlanta. It was Los Angeles. It was New York. It was Philadelphia. And yes, here in Boston, about 10,000 showed up at the Boston Common and then marched all the way on Tremont Street to the City Hall Plaza itself. And what was their message? Their message was hands off. Hands off what? They're saying hands off Social Security, hands off Medicaid, hands off our democracy, hands off our civil liberties, hands off our fundamental rights, hands off illegals, hands off everything that Trump and Elon have been trying to do over the last 80 so days. In other words, they are now openly calling for an end to the Trump presidency. And I want to be very crystal clear about this. This wasn't grassroots activism. This isn't people spontaneously on their own who are just so infuriated and angered and dispossessed by Trump's policies and actions that they decide to just voluntarily show up. There were some, no question. But the overwhelming majority, these are the same recycled activists, bought and paid for by George Soros. Actually, MoveOn.org is the key group. That's what Soros controls. That was really the driving force behind so many of these hands-off protests and demonstrations all across the country. These are people who once were protesting for Occupy Wall Street. Then from Occupy Wall Street, they went to Black Lives Matter. Then from Black Lives Matter to Antifa. It's like a revolving door. They looked, then they went to Columbia or to Harvard or to other campuses and to engage in radical anti-Semitic, anti-Israel protests. Now, what we do know, thanks to some excellent reporting, is that the overwhelming majority of the activists that were bussed in are either communist, out-and-out communist sympathizers or pro-Hamas, pro-Islamist protesters. So you're talking now about the radical left-wing fringe that Soros is paying, in some case, literally, $20 an hour, $40 an hour, $100 an hour to show up. They're professional agitators, protesters, and far-left activists. This was an attempted political insurrection. And the signs were ugly. Many of them outright calling for the assassination or murder of Elon Musk, of President Trump. Many of the signs had pictures of Trump's face as a baby with a Nazi swastika carved on his forehead. Others were talking about how this is 1938 Nazi Germany. I'm not kidding. And that Trump is about to become an all-out dictator in which he's now going to start putting people in gas ovens and concentration camps. Others went on and on about the stock market cratering over the last couple of days in the wake of Trump's tariffs, saying this is wiping out trillions of dollars in wealth and people's retirement accounts. It didn't matter what the cause was. In the end, this was about hating Donald Trump. And what was stunning is when you actually interviewed these people and you said, give me a specific reason why you don't like Trump. Okay, but specifically, what has he done that's so bad? How is this affected you in a negative way? They couldn't give an answer. They had to literally been given talking point sheets of paper to read to the media. They were clueless. Many of them had no idea even what they were protesting. So they're paid to hate. They hate, but their message, like the Democratic Party itself, is utterly incoherent. What you saw on Saturday was an absolute giant temper tantrum. Very similar to Cory Booker with his so-called 25-hour marathon speech on the Senate floor. He's yelling, he's screaming, he's shouting, he's denouncing, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Nothing. What did Cory Booker say for 25 hours? Nothing of substance. What did these protesters say in all of the cities and all of the sign waving and the speechifying and the threats and the and the organizing and the demonstrating, say on Boston Common or on the National Mall in Washington or in downtown Manhattan, where tens of thousands blocked traffic again, inconveniencing everybody in that city? What was the ultimate message? What was their ultimate point? They want Trump dead. They want Elon dead. Okay. And replace him with what? I mean, this is what I mean. It's sheer rage and hatred. And as I pointed out on X, and this needs to be said, those speeches, those signs, calling for the murder of Trump, calling for the out-and-out assassination of Elon Musk, sign after sign after sign, they are fomenting political violence and terrorism. There is no question about it. For example, in Maine, Senator Angus King, independent senator, but he caucuses with the Democrats, another crazy moonbat, spoke to a protest, a hands-off protest, in which he literally was cheering on the open call for the murder and assassination of Trump and Elon. And this is a sitting U.S. senator? Are you kidding me? Democracy, they said, was turning into a dictatorship. Trump, they said, was crowning himself a king, crowning himself a dictator. That Elon Musk, through Trump, was now setting up a new fascist oligarchy. I swear, this is the garbage that they were spewing. Even though, by the way, Elon's going to be gone in a few months, and Wall Street hates Trump. The oligarchs hate Trump because of his tariffs. They're literally at war with Trump economically over his tariffs. But facts don't matter. It's propaganda. It's misinformation. It's hate, hate, hate. And listen now, this is unbelievable. Okay? This is unbelievable. This is Gracia Martinez Rosas. She is an illegal alien speaking at a hands-off rally, bragging about how she's an illegal migrant and she's not going anywhere. No one's going to deport her, she told Tom Homan and President Trump. Roll cut 25. A mic.
My name is Gracia Martinez Rosas. I am an immigrant. I am undocumented, unafraid, queer, and unashamed.
So she's got the whole, she checks off all the boxes. She's an illegal, she's queer, she's defying Trump, she's a lefty, she's the whole thing. It's time for Homan and ICE to be monitoring these rallies. And when an illegal speaks, grab them and put them on a plane and deport them right back. 6:18 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. 617-266-6868 if you want to be part of the show. Okay, my friends. So, the left now is clearly desperate. They're doing everything they can to try to mobilize as many of their shock troops and activists to undermine Trump, to have public opinion turn against Trump, and to politically destroy his administration. And I talked about a lot of death threats. That's the really frightening thing. How many speakers cheered on naked calls for the assassination of Trump and of Elon Musk. How illegals openly said, I am here illegally, and I'm not going to be deported. I refuse to leave. Come and get me. Listen now. This is Congressman Maxwell Frost speaking at a hands-off rally, I believe in Washington, D.C. That was the epicenter, was Washington. But, I mean, they had protests in West Virginia. They had protests in Cleveland, Ohio. They had protests in Philadelphia. Obviously, Boston had a big protest. About at least 10,000 showed up. Atlanta, big. Dallas, big. Los Angeles was huge. Manhattan, New York City, tens and tens and tens of thousands came out onto the streets. So they're starting to get their people activated, and they're increasingly now calling for not just opposition and resistance, but for out-and-out violence and political terror. Listen now to Congressman Maxwell Frost speaking at this hands-off rally on Saturday, and they're already letting it know. They're telling everybody, we take back the House. It's going to be impeach, impeach, impeach. We're going to issue subpoena after subpoena, investigation after investigation. They're going to criminalize the entire Trump presidency, the entire Trump administration, and they're going to try to reduce everything Donald Trump is trying to do to rubble. Roll cut 11. Mike.
In less than 2 years, we will become the majority. And I'll tell you this, Elon Musk was on the news the other day saying, well, if the Democrats win, it's just going to be subpoenas and investigations. It's the one thing he's right about. You're damn right there's going to be subpoenas. You're damn right there's going to be investigations. Because when you steal from the people, expect the people to rise up at the ballot box and on the street.
Now, they kept saying that over and over again, that Elon is stealing, that Trump is stealing. And then, so, okay, fine. Here, let me issue an open challenge to any liberal, any Democrat, anybody that attended that, to me, joke of a protest on Saturday. What has Elon stolen? Name me a dollar. Literally, a dollar. Not $10, not $50. I'm not talking hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. A single buck. What has he stolen? What has Trump stolen? What have they stolen? This is, to me, what is absolutely frightening about this. They're going on and on, leveling these ridiculous, outlandish, fantastical allegations with no evidence whatsoever. They're just making it up. Hey, stealing. Well, stealing what? So what? Cutting waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal government is now called stealing? So how is he pocketing any of this? He's saving the taxpayer money. They're the ones who are stealing. Hello. When illegal aliens are receiving Social Security checks that they have no business getting, it's theft of taxpayer money. Hello. And then they keep going on about hands off. Well, hands off what? Seriously, hands off what? Hands off the wasteful spending? Hands off deporting Tren Nicaragua gangbangers? What? Hands off smashing the Iranian-backed Houthis? What? Hands off trying to make peace in Ukraine? Like, hands off what? But Jeff, they're going to cut Social Security. Jeff, they're going to cut Medicare and Medicaid. People are going to be starving. Well, actually, no. That's why they're cracking down on all of this fraudulent spending in which illegals, for example, are collecting 1.3 million of them collecting Medicaid. It's going to bankrupt Medicaid. It's why millions of illegals are collecting Social Security. It's going to bankrupt Social Security. So if you get rid of the fraudulent spending to people who are beneficiaries who aren't entitled or don't deserve to get it because they're not U.S. citizens and they're here illegally, you're going to be saving Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. As Elon and Trump have been saying 5,000 times. You're right. The system's going broke. That's why we have to weed out all the fraud, the corruption, the waste, and the abuse. No one's cutting Social Security or Medicare. We're saving Social Security or Medicare. Duh. Would it kill you to read a newspaper? Would it kill you to read a book? Would it kill you to think for yourself for 1 second? But it doesn't matter. Literally, the truth, the facts, evidence doesn't matter. This is a mob. And a mob that has been whipped up with lies and emotion and deceit and misinformation and disinformation. And it doesn't help that they're getting paid. And when you see the signs, and they were everywhere, of Hamas, of the communist hammer and sickle, when they openly call for revolution and for blood to flow on the streets, we know exactly what they want. They want their socialist, Marxist, communist revolution. And they're going to try to use now the cratering stock market. The fact now that the stock market has lost $6 trillion in the last couple of days. They're going to try to use that as the quote-unquote economic crisis for them to try to launch a political revolution to overthrow Trump, overthrow Elon, and overthrow the will of the people. And so my question to you, what do you make of the hands-off rallies that exploded all weekend long? And are we now watching the rise of a political insurrection? 634 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask you, Kuhner Country, really the great audience of Kuhner Country, all of you listening, what do you make of these hands-off rallies? They were coordinated. as I said, organized, paid for primarily by George Soros. Other Democrat groups were involved. It's clearly AstroTurf. There's no question. It's not from the bottom up. It's from the top down. They were given their marching orders. They were given their talking points. They were bussing them in from all over the country. So obviously now they're recycling the same activists over and over and over again. In fact, later on in the show, I'm going to literally play a cut of the key organizer of the Hands Up rally here in Boston, where she says, oh yeah, compared to in other words, compared to all these other rallies that I've been holding for so many years, this is a pretty good crowd. So that's what they do. They just go from cause to left-wing cause to left-wing cause to left-wing cause, but it's the same radicals, same rabble-rousers, same haters on the left. So they're professional activists and they're professional protesters, agitators. That's what they are. Now, let me ask you this. With the chaos now that we've seen in the stock market, last Thursday, Friday in particular, apparently the Dow is going to continue to bleed this morning. That's what they're saying. If they're looking at the Dow, the futures, apparently in Tokyo, it opened earlier in Tokyo. The financial markets there were continuing to go down. They were taking a beating. So there's $6.6 trillion in wealth that has been lost just in the last couple days. They fear that the bleeding can continue. And you can see it in the media. You can see it in Wall Street. They are now talking up the possibility of a recession. They'd love nothing more than to tank the stock market in order to spark a recession and thereby economically damage Trump and hurt him with his approval ratings, hurt him crater his political popularity, and they sense now a potential opening and weakness. So I want to ask you, do you fear, with the chaos in the stock market and the declines in the financial markets, combined now with this huge push on the left, the hands-off rallies to take it to the streets, that this creates an opening now for the left to really hurt Trump's political popularity, to really damage and block and undermine his presidency and the support that he has among so many Americans? 617-266-6868 is the number. Will the radical left now rise as the stock market falls? That's the question I have for you. Is that your fear? Dave, our Western PA constitutionalist correspondent in PA, thanks for holding. In Western Pennsylvania, thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How you doing? Me and my wife were driving through Pittsburgh. We had to make an appointment at the VA on Saturday, and we had to go around some people. There was a lot of people, Jeff, but not nearly as much as the media are lying about. Like they said, there was 100,000 on Saturday in Boston, Jeff. Not even close. It was maybe 1/10 of that, Jeff. But I'm just saying, in Pittsburgh, Jeff, there was violence. There were fights going on. There were people arresting people. But of course, the KDKA here in Pittsburgh aren't going to say that, Jeff, because God forbid they dime out their own buddies. But, Jeff, you know what this is, Jeff? This was paid opposition. And, Jeff, we know this is like fake wrestling. People are acting up just to act up. You know, Jeff, and this wasn't coordinated. These are a bunch of dumb nuts like Bill and Sudbury there back in Massachusetts and a few knuckle skulls here, Jeff. All it is, they're rabble-rousers. They are so – it's like disorganized crime, like a comedy, Jeff. You know what I mean? That's all it is.
Dave, so you're saying that the numbers in Pittsburgh were nowhere near as big as what the media was claiming, correct?
I mean, they're doing it just to make it look good, Jeff. In fact, if you look on Facebook, buddy, some of the photos that some of the local media took here, They weren't even of that rally, Jeff. They were from what's called the Three Rivers Regatta. You know, like you guys have the Charles River Regatta in Boston in the summer. We have the Three Rivers Regatta here in Pittsburgh at Point State Park. And most of those pictures weren't even taken from Point State Park, Jeff. Yeah, there were, I would say maybe, Jeff, at most, it was maybe lucky if there was over maybe not even 30,000, Jeff. There were more people for the Penguins Stanley Cup rally than there were for this yesterday, Jeff.
Interesting.
And I'm telling you, Jeff, the numbers are just full of BS. It could block up a toilet, buddy.
Dave, are you worried at all about the stock market and the fact now, because this is how the media is trying to portray this. It's all being coordinated. The media is hyping up the stock market, the fact that it went down substantially on Thursday and Friday, along with these hands-off rallies. And you're right, they're augmenting the numbers. Look, there's no way there was 100,000 in Boston Common, as an example, over the weekend. 10,000 tops. Same thing in Manhattan, in New York. The liberal media there was like, hundreds of thousands on the streets in Manhattan. Maybe 20, 30,000 tops. Tops. So you're right. It's about, the reality is 1/10. But they're trying to make it seem, Dave, that it's a groundswell. That, look at these protests. At over 1,000 events just sprouting up like this. People are speaking out. They're worried. The stock market's going to crash. The economy's going to collapse. Trump's going to get us all killed. That's the fear mongering that they're trying to create. Do you think the American people are buying it? Do you think it's working in your view, Dave?
Not at all. And second of all, like the Constitution, the liberals like to try to quote it, but they don't understand it, Jeff. All right, Jeff, as a matter of fact, Jeff, I'm driving into work right now, and I see F Trump bumper sticker on this guy, and of course he's got the Ukraine sticker, the Black Lives Matter sticker. He probably went to you never know what it is, Jeff. It could be trans-minded. That's what I call these deaf people, trans-minded. They have no brain to begin with, Jeff. A lobotomist did a lobotomy on their head, and they found a bunch of sea hags, Jeff. They found nothing up there.
Dave, thank you very much for that call, Dave. I really appreciate it. So you can see that's what they're trying to do now. Their goal is to destabilize the Trump presidency. And look, this is not original to me. There's some really smart thinkers out there. Victor Davis Hanson is one of them, saying Wall Street, the rich, the globalists, who are going to lose out on these Trump tariffs. They are trying to punish Trump now in the stock market. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to punish Trump because for the first time in over 40 years, we have a president who wants to reorient global trade and the entire international economic system to benefit workers, to benefit blue-collar people, middle-class people, and bring back good-paying manufacturing jobs. And so they want to punish Trump and create a sense of panic and hysteria. Agree, disagree, 649 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. Jeff in Everett. Thanks for holding, Jeff, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. I was up having dinner with some lunch, really, with some friends up in Bedford, and I kind of wandered into one of the rallies up there. And honestly, my wife kind of made the good point about it. And she goes, "There's no young people involved. This is like your grandmother's movement. They're all 60s and 70s. They're all white." And they're yelling and screaming, and honestly, I don't even think they know what they're yelling about, to be honest with you.
Well, Jeff, it's funny you should mention that because in the media coverage that I read over the weekend, I'll just give you an example. New York Post had a really good story on the big rally they had in Manhattan. Many of the rally goers were self-described former hippies. I mean, they brag about it. And they say, oh, we've been protesting for the last 60, 70 years. They go, we protested the Vietnam War. We protested for abortion. And they start listing everything, HIV, LGBTQ. And they're like, this is how, I'm serious. This is how we stay young at heart. We just keep protesting. So you're right. So many of the protesters, I noticed you're right, are white, older, very much, elderly white people. And many of them cut their teeth in the 1960s. It's like they feel they're reliving their youth again by showing up in lawn chairs with these signs calling for Musk to be killed. It's just, Jeff, I've never seen anything like this. And then they roll out these illegals. And they did it at every major rally. They rolled out, not just here in Boston. They did it in every major rally. One illegal after another. And they come out and say, my name, whatever it may be, Joe Schmo, I'm an illegal, and I'm not going anywhere. And the crowd is like, yeah. The whole thing is weird. So what they're really saying, Jeff, is don't deport MS-13. Don't deport Tren de Aragua. Don't deport any illegal aliens whatsoever. Don't. In other words, we love the waste, fraud, and abuse in the government. Let the politicians continue to steal. Let people continue to steal our money. The problem are not the politicians who have been lying to us for the last 40, 50 years. The problem is Elon for exposing that they've been stealing our money and lying to us. I mean, that's what I mean when I say these people are utterly clueless. I mean, Jeff, it's scary. It's Bill in Sudbury. It's, Bill, he's in his 60s, 70s, whatever, reliving his glory days as a hippie. And he knows nothing about what he's talking about. And it's just waving signs and rage. Hate. Am I wrong, Jeff?
I think you're 100% right. And to be honest with you, they've definitely started. I think the tide has turned. They're losing the people that I think they want, which is the younger college-age kids. I'm a Boston University grad. You'll get a kick out of this. I got an email last week, and it was from BU, and they wanted me as an alum to support a food pantry on campus for the food insecure students that go there. And I'm thinking to myself, why are you going to BU if you can't afford to eat? Take advantage of some of these, these smaller universities, like a Bunker Hill or something like that, which gives you a great education. I'm amazed that, and they'll turn around and they'll blame Trump for this, only the man hasn't been in office. This is all Biden's doing. So these old people, they're out there, going crazy. But they're really ignoring the young people that are going to carry it over the top for them. But they're not realizing that fact, Jeff. Have a good one.
Thank you. Really good call. Thank you, Jeff. No, I agree. Look, young people aren't stupid. They realize Social Security is going to go broke. It's inevitable. Everybody agrees on this. The only question is when. And so Elon and Trump are like, look, if we don't weed out this waste, fraud, and abuse, and we're talking trillions of dollars, you're not going to get a government pension check. You're not getting your pension. There's going to be no Social Security. You want to have health care when you hit 65? You think you can put 10, 20 million illegals on Medicare and not bankrupt the system? What is wrong with you people? Yes, it's there for American citizens and legal residents of the United States who've earned it, who are entitled to it. You don't give it to people who are scamming the system, fraudsters, people who are fleecing us, or illegals that have no business being in our country. So they get it. They understand, obviously. And they also realize, look, they're being saddled with so much debt. You're looking now at $37 trillion in the national debt, $2 trillion deficits every single year. They're going to have to pay for all this. So they realize if we don't fix it now, the future generation is shafted. I mean, they're screwed. There's no other way to put it. So, and again, look at everything they say. All of these hands-off rallies. Look how insane they sound. This is Nazi Germany, 1938. Trump is a king. Elon is a dictator. Ay. They sound crazed. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Mark in Medford. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Good morning on this Jerry Monday, Jeff. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing okay. But before I get to these phony, fake rallies, okay, I just wanted, and I hope Trump's administration, I know they listen to this show, Jeff. I hope they're listening this morning. There's one way to stop this nonsense, okay? You know how that when the president has an urgent message to send to the country, they interrupt regularly scheduled programming, and he's on every single TV station that you could possibly think of. That's what this administration needs to do. Trump, Vance, and Doge need to go on national television on every single channel and explain what the hell they're doing. Okay? Because these people are being brainwashed into thinking that when they hear the word cut, they think it's going to be cut from them. It's not being cut from them. It's being cut from the waste, fraud, and abuse. The people that stay home and do nothing and get paid. And, the millions of people that are getting Social Security checks for 125 years old. Now, to these phony protests, yes, we all know they're being funded by Soros and whoever else, okay? But this is how stupid these people are. They want to call you, me, Trump, and the administration Nazis, okay? Meanwhile, the guy who's paying you to stand out there with a sign and protest something that you have no idea what you're protesting actually is a Nazi. I don't get these people. Jeff, I hate to use the word, so I won't because it's not a good word. But
twisted and stupid. And, Mark, and look, I don't want to bring it back to history, but just bear with me for 30 seconds. They remind me so much of communist youth in Eastern Europe during the Cold War. Because they would, give them these signs and they'd be protesting something against the United States, whatever it is, okay? And they're like, Nazis, 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 Nazis. Well, who collaborated with Hitler? Stalin. Who signed the non-aggression pact with Hitler? Stalin. Who invaded Poland along with Hitler? Stalin. Who helped carve up Eastern Europe with Hitler initially, first couple of years? Stalin. Who supplied Hitler all of the minerals and resources to fund his entire war machine until he turned on the Soviets? Stalin. So who were the biggest collaborators? Hitler, Stalin, and the communists. Hello. And it's scary. It's like arguing with Bill and Sudbury. You mention these facts. I remember I used to debate them all the time. We'd go back in the old country. My dad would take me back on vacation, and we'd have family members, and they're like, literally, Reagan's a Nazi. And I'm like, Reagan is a Nazi? Are you normal? There's a Nazi, he's a fascist. And so I start mentioning how the communists were collaborating with the Nazis. And it's like, Mark, it's like arguing with Bill or any typical moonbat. It's like arguing with a wall. Like, I was very honest. I was a teenager then. And I'm like, this is very disconcerting. It's like, are you not able to comprehend what I'm saying? You can't absorb what I'm saying? You can tell. It's like, they don't want to hear it. 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 And at one point, I remember I said to my dad, I go, Dad, it's like arguing with a wall. There's no point. They have this fanatical mind, and they'll only accept information that confirms their worldview. They're not open to anything else. They don't want to accept. It's like arguing, seriously, Mark, with an Islamic fundamentalist. They won't hear anything else. They're impervious to reason, to facts, to logic, and then they lash out. And it's always in the end jihad. They say jihad, the Islamists do. The leftists say murder, assassinate. Take him down, take him out. But that's how it ends with them. In other words, someone take Trump out. Someone take Elon Musk out. Someone take Mark and Medford out. But it's the same thing. So it's very scary to deal with people like this, because you realize if there's a majority of them, and God forbid you should put a gun in their hands, say like the brown shirts under Hitler, or like the communists under, Stalin or whatever, they will kill the opposition, and they will not bat an eye. Because they're like mindless drones. The politics has become their god. The Democratic Party, like the Communist Party or the Nazi Party, is like a cult. They call us cultists. No. The real cult is them. And when you talk to a cultist, it's a very frightening thing. It's like their side can do no wrong, and no matter what evidence you show them, they don't want to listen. And they just look at you with these dead eyes. And that's what I saw at Boston Common, and that's what I saw at rallies all across the country. They're not just misinformed and disinformed. They're gullible, stupid sheeple, zombies who will follow the Democratic Party literally off a cliff. If they told them, if Soros told them to drink the Kool-Aid, they would drink the Kool-Aid. It's Jonestown. Drink it, we'll drink it. Anything for you. Mark, am I wrong?
Like you always say, you're 1,000% right, and you use the word stupid, okay? You know what? That's being nice, because I got a couple of examples for you. Charlie Hurt from Fox and Friends went out with a microphone in New York at one of these rallies, and he asked people why they were there, and one lady looked at him and said, well, I'm here for freedom of religion. And Charlie Hurt just looked at her like, okay, what does that have to do with Doge? But anyway, and the second thing, Jeff, they're all saying, we need to take out Trump. We need to take out Trump. Okay, take out Trump, you get J.D. Vance, who doubles down on Trump's policies. So what are you going to do? Take out J.D. Vance? Then what? Take out Mike Johnson? These people are freaking stupider than stupid, Jeff. Stupid is a nice word. They're beyond stupid.
They're Bill and Sudbury. I'm telling you, that's what you saw were hundreds of thousands of Bills in Sudbury. I'm telling you, that's what you saw. It's a scary thing, man. Mark, thank you very, very much for that call. Darren in Carver. Thanks for holding, Darren, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Darren?
I can't really speak too well because I've been screaming my brains out on Saturday. So I just wanted to let you know who the meanest people were in Plymouth, because they had a little satellite thing down there at the Plymouth Rock, too. The meanest people of all, the ones that you would expect the most wisdom from, the ones that, would wish you, good luck and all that kind of stuff. The white grandmothers gave me and my English bulldog, Frank, the finger. A grandfather decided he wished that somebody would run myself and my English bulldog, Frank, over, and he wished that we would die right there. I mean, are you kidding me? You know what my response to all these grandmothers and grandfathers, you know what my response to all them was? God bless you. I hope our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ instill some sanity into your brain soon, because this is insane. I couldn't believe how these people were acting. And they were older. Like I said, the ones that you would expect the most wisdom from. Can you believe that?
Darren, can I ask you, if you don't mind, if I'm getting too personal, please tell me. I promise I won't be offended. Did you, and to be as frank as you can, what did you do to provoke them or incite them? In other words, did you wear a MAGA hat? Did you wear a MAGA shirt? Did you say something to them? What was it that, made them know you were a Trump supporter? And what was it that drove them to such frenzy and hatred? Was there something that you did?
We're all starting to amass down there at Plymouth Rock. I didn't have any gear with me, so I drove as fast as I could to Easton, grabbed what I could. I got myself an inaugurational MAGA hat, which you will get for half off if you buy another, something else from the store. So I bought the MAGA hat. All right, this is the best part, though. This is probably what pissed them off a little bit, but. So they sell a sweatshirt now that has Donald Trump on the back of it. The sweatshirt's black, his silhouette in white, and he's got American flag sunglasses on, and his two middle fingers are sticking up, and it says, "You miss."
Okay. So they knew you were a Trumper, right? They knew you were a big Trump supporter. So now, Darren, if you don't mind me asking, did you say anything to them? Were you swearing at them? Were you insulting them? Were you in any way, attacking or criticizing them? Or were you just standing there with your sweatshirt and your hat and they just exploded at you? How did it, explain to me a little bit more the context of the confrontation.
I did nothing but walk to my area where I was standing with my flag. Like I said, I had my dog with me, Frank. Other than me walking around with my flag, my sweatshirt, and my hat. And, obviously there were people there that were driving by, especially the Plymouth police that drove by and gave me the thumbs up, thank you. Every single one of them did, thank you. And, there were plenty of supporters down there. The only thing that I was mostly upset was there wasn't much support for our side. That's the only thing that really got me. I was pretty much the only one standing out there. That's what, really got me. I was the only one standing out there, and other than the people that were driving by in Teslas and giving me, thumbs up and, being nice about that, but nobody really got out to stand out there with me. That's what I don't get.
Help you out. No, I hear you. So, Darren, look, you're walking around minding your own business. You've got your MAGA hat, you've got your sweatshirt, which I think is hilarious, an American flag, and your English bulldog, and, that's it. Literally, that's it. And so you've got people in their 60s and 70s, people who should know better, who you expect a lot of wisdom and intelligence with their, in their elder years. And they're telling you, they want you dead, they want your dog dead, they'd run you over, someone should kill you. I mean, now, Darren, were you shocked when you heard that kind of anger and hatred from grannies, from white grandmothers? Were you shocked, Darren?
I was floored, Jeff. I was floored. I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't. No lie.
Were they using the F-bomb? Hold on. Do they have potty mouths? It's just incredible. There's Granny, and all of a sudden, F you. Hope you effing die. Somebody's to effing run you over, mother effer. Granny, what the hell? 617-266-6868. But see, that's my point. This is not about patriotism. This is not about love of country. It's hate. It's pure hate. They're fomenting hatred. And I'm telling you, they're fomenting violence. You keep calling for people to be killed and run over. Someone's going to get killed and run over. It's pretty obvious. Am I wrong? Dan in Worcester. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi.
My 16-year-old daughter and her friend wanted to go to the one in Marshfield, so I took them over. Not my jam, but I took them over. I support her. I said, I'm going to drop you off. So I got to Marshfield. I was a little shocked. There were at least 500 people, maybe 550, gathering along the road. And making signs. They had paper and markers. I wanted to make a sign that said "Hands off Hunter's laptop," but she wouldn't let me. Anyway, I'll pick you up. Give me a text. I'll pick you up. I'm gonna head out and go somewhere else. And they said, okay. So I got this. It was supposed to go from 1 to 2:30. I got a text at about 2:15, 2:20. We're in Dunkin' Donuts. I said, all right. So I got down there, and it's like everybody's gone. So I'm like, what's going on? She said, we went in the Dollar Tree store to buy some gloves because we're cold, and we came out and everybody went home. I said, oh, all right. My other point is, if you're going to have 500-600 people in a small town show up for a rally, don't you need a permit for that? And
Yes.
Don't you need some detail? I saw 0 police when I dropped her off. I mean, there were people crossing the road, cars are trying to get through. I don't know. It just seems like it was hands off detail police, hands off a permit,
Dan, so your daughter is an anti-Trumper, correct? Dan, can you hang on? We're up against a hard break. I want to come back. I finished this call with Dan, obviously. Take more of your calls. Were you at any of these hands-off rallies? And what did you see? Okay, massive hands-off rallies across the entire country. By the way, even up in New Hampshire. It wasn't just Boston Common or the greater Boston area, as Dan was talking about. And we're going to go right back to Dan in Worcester. They had him in Peabody. They had him in Worcester. They had him in Framingham, Wellesley, Newton, but even all the way up into New Hampshire. The big one, though, was in Washington, D.C. L.A., New York had huge, about maybe 20, 30,000 people. Boston saw about 10,000 at the Boston Common, and then they marched their way to City Hall Plaza, all of them saying, hands off. Hands off the federal bureaucracy. Hands off, I'm not kidding, illegals. Hands off Tren de Aragua. Hands off MS-13. Hands off everything. They want Trump overthrown. They want Elon Musk assassinated. And they want to end the Trump presidency immediately. It was a political insurrection paid for and organized by that Nazi collaborator, George Soros, and the radical far left and Democrat groups. And they believe now there's blood in the water as the stock market gets weaker, as it continues to decline, as opposition grows to Trump's tariffs. They believe that we are entering a possible economic crisis that the radical left can now exploit to destroy and stop Trump's presidency and regain power. Let's go back to Dan in Worcester. Dan, I'm just curious. You sound obviously like a very nice father. You dropped your young daughter off and her friend. The protest ended quite quickly. There's about 500 or 600 people. It fizzled out quite fast. Dan, I'm just curious. I take it your daughter is an anti-Trumper. And again, I don't want you to get too personal. I won't be offended or reveal family secrets. Why? What are the reasons that your daughter gives you that she felt the need to attend this hands-off rally? Mike, can we go to Dan in Worcester, Mike?
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, Dan. Sorry about that. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, she hates Donald Trump. She hates Elon Musk. And to be honest with you, she lives on the South Shore. This was in Marshfield, the rally. I was impressed. A lot of people, no police detail. Most of the people there were 60, 70 years old. But my daughter's been, she's drunk on woke Kool-Aid from being in the public school system she's 16 years old now. So she's a junior in high school. And it's just, she just wanted to go and, get rid of Elon, get rid of Trump. And like I said, the whole thing was gone in less than an hour and a half. And there was no speakers there or anything. It was just stand on the side of the road. People honked their horns. And people, I guess, and the one sign that I saw, which I think characterizes the Democrat Party perfectly, some woman had a huge sign that was a big picture of Bernie Sanders after he had his heart attack, sitting in a wheelchair with a winter coat and mittens on.
That is weird.
And I'm like, okay, that says it all right there.
Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Dan, final question. And again, you've been very generous by telling us a lot of private information. When you speak to your daughter, when you say to her, I'll make up a name, Kathy, okay? Kathy, sweetheart, what has Trump done, or what has Elon done specifically that you feel the need on a weekend, on a Saturday, to have daddy drop you off? It's pretty cold out there. You could do a million other things on a Saturday afternoon. What's the answer? What specifically does she hate about Trump or Elon?
Argument over for her on that. Yeah.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I didn't hear it.
They're both dictators. Trump and Elon are both dictators. And that's it. That's all.
But when you say, well, what are they dictating over? Like, what are they, like to be, what have they done that makes them a dictator?
Arguing with a 16-year-old.
So, I mean, what I'm saying is, can they give you any specifics?
Well, there was another person I gave a lift to, and she was telling me, and she's my age, I'm 64. She was telling me how she hates inflation. And I said, oh, and inflation started in November? And she said, well, it's only going to get worse. And I said, yes, for the short term. And that was the end of the conversation. So there are people there that think this inflation that we're suffering right now, Trump caused it.
That's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Dan, dynamite call. Dynamite call. You sound
and if there's anybody in Marshfield listening, I'm just wondering, do you need a permit to have a rally with 500 people? Did they have one? And also, don't you need a couple of detail cops hanging around to direct the traffic?
You're dead on. Yeah. Dan, you're dead on. Dan, thank you very much for that call. Bob, well, there you go. That pretty much really brilliantly summed it up. He's a dictator. But what, sweetheart? What did he do? He's a dictator! Oh, really? He's driving up inflation. Well, you think it started with Trump? He's driving up inflation. That's what I'm telling you. It's incoherent. It's just rage and hatred aimed at two people. It's like a mob mentality. And there's no reason or rhyme to any of it. Bob in Lynn, thanks for holding, Bob, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure, Bob.
I just wanted you to know that I'm a former school administrator, and I sat in all the chairs. And you get to read people rather quickly. And what I'm reading from what I'm hearing is that people are talking about how this is going to affect me, but China is taking it on the chin, so to speak, and I feel that will keep them out of Taiwan because of the lack of money. And I'm not overly sorrowful for that. I bought a car during COVID, and it was a year before they could have the chips that could make the defroster work. So I'm thinking that would be a disaster. That's one concept I got. Another thought is the Supreme Court.
Okay, I want to give a big hat tip. I promise I'm going to go right back to Bob and Lynn. But I think it sets up Bob just beautifully. I want to give a big hat tip to Vince in Florida. Vince used to work here at iHeart. He moved to Florida. And big Trump supporter. Good guy. Really nice guy. Sent me a video. Actually texted me a video. And I wish we could play it on the show. We just can't. But Trust me when I tell you this. Okay, it's all over social media. It's a female protester. I would say maybe 50 years old, give or take. It's raining. She's protesting. She has a sign. And it says, Elon has no marbles. And this female journalist walks up to her, very polite. You can see it's on social media. She just says, so what are you protesting? And she says, well, we're protesting Tesla. And then the journalist says, I'm giving you verbatim now what was said. Well, how is protesting Tesla going to save democracy? She says, by taking down its leader, Elon Musk, who is threatening to destroy our democracy. And she says, okay, just explain it to me because I don't quite understand. What is Elon doing that is going to destroy or is destroying our democracy? Her answer, well, look it up on the internet. Google it. And then she says, but you're here. You're the ones holding a protest. You're the ones blocking traffic. I just want to know from you, since you're carrying the signs, what is it specifically that Elon has done that is destroying or dismantling democracy? Then she says to her, I'm not kidding, if you can't see it, then I don't know what to tell you. I don't want to argue with you. And then the protester starts to walk away. And then the reporter follows saying, look, I'm sorry, I don't understand. What am I supposed to see? What haven't I seen? I'm asking you. You're just calling me a name. I want to know, what is he doing? And then she looks at her sign and she says, what does that mean, Elon Musk has no marbles? She then says, the protester, well, he's an idiot. And she says, but what is he an idiot about? And then the protester says, I swear to you, everything. And then she says, well, I don't quite understand what you're saying. Is sending rockets into space the act of an idiot? And then the protester says, yes. To which the reporter then says, but how is that being an idiot? Then she says, I don't want to argue with you. If you don't want to do your research, read the news, go on the internet. I don't want to talk to you anymore. I've given you the whole thing, the whole whatever, the 3-minute clip. The verbatim. So why are you against Tesla? We hate Elon. Why do you hate Elon? He's a threat to democracy. How is he a threat to democracy? He's just a threat to democracy. No, but can you show me how? What has he done to dismantle democracy? Well, if you can't see it, I don't know what else to tell you. And then, okay, what does it mean he's lost his... Okay, fine. What does it mean? So in other words, you can't give me a reason. Well, what does it mean that he's lost his marbles? Like, what do you mean by that? He's an idiot. Well, how is he an idiot? He's the wealthiest man in the world. He owns maybe the 3 most lucrative companies on the face of the planet. Tesla, SpaceX, Twitter, now X, formerly Twitter. Like, well, I guess he's doing something right. Like he's firing rockets into outer space. Is that stupid? Is that an act of an idiot? Yes. But how is that the act of an idiot? Well, if you can't see it. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. And that's what the media is trying to convince us. That says there's groundswell of opposition. That says what Trump has unleashed, the people are against him. No. These are far-left morons who are being paid to hold up signs that I don't think many of them even understand themselves. All right, let's go right back to Bob and Lynn. Bob, you were making a very good point. Trump's tariffs now are going to put a real check and restraint on China, which is probably going to weaken them so much economically, they're not going to dare risk invading Taiwan. That's going to be a very good thing for the security of the world, for the United States. And then, of course, Mike, who loves to hit that button when we have to go break, took us to break. So, Bob, please pick up where you left off.
Great, thanks, Jeff. I knew you'd be back, so I didn't let you go. China has wanted Taiwan forever, and they hold all the chips, so to speak. My car didn't work for a whole year because they couldn't have the chips that they needed. If they manage to take Taiwan, I think the entire world has a problem. And as long as we're taking China on, we're all soldiers. Everybody here. I mean, it's yes, the gasoline costs me a little more. Yes, the eggs are a little bit more, but that's not Trump's problem. The problem is that we need to take Taiwan as a people, and we need to protect Taiwan as Americans, all of us, not just Trump's tariffs. And they going one step further with this district court judge telling Trump that he can't do this and he can't do that. I gotta feel that the president and Congress overrule the Supreme Court. You want to rein in the president, you're going to need the Supreme Court and Congress to overrule the president, not some district court judge somewhere. And that's pretty much where I'm coming from. I don't hear this on being talked about, and I would think I would like to just hear some people take the larger view.
Well, Bob, look, you're right. Trump is looking at the whole chessboard. He's clearly playing three-dimensional chess. The tariffs are not just economic, although they are. It's not just about boosting manufacturing and our industrial base, which it is, and bringing back literally millions of good-paying jobs back to the heartland, and that we start building things here, including, by the way, chips. Trump doesn't want to rely on nothing against Taiwan, but it's becoming more and more clear every day. We have to become much more self-sufficient and economically independent, because you're right. China, communist China, not the people, but the regime, they pose a serious threat to the world, to the region and to the world. And one of the things Trump is successfully doing with these tariffs, he is delivering an absolute body blow against the Chinese economy. He has economically devastated China. And they've now retaliated, which was a big mistake. They have now launched a massive retaliatory tariff. Trump told them over the weekend, you just made a huge mistake, because now Trump is going to go Thunderdome in terms of even more tariffs. He is now going to tank the Chinese economy. And by tanking the Chinese economy, that is going to undercut their military buildup, and it's going to undercut their ability to menace their neighbors like Taiwan. So it's not just good for the United States and our middle class and working class in the long run, but it's also an absolute hammer blow. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, listen now to Tom Homan, the border czar. He was on Fox, reacting now to the hands-off rally, where many of the activists who spoke were illegals themselves, illegal aliens, and others saying they're not just coming after Donald Trump, they're not just coming after Elon Musk, they're going to come after Tom Homan. And if it means protesting him right outside his New York home, threatening him, menacing him outside his New York home, holding demonstrations and rallies right in front of his home, and of course he's been receiving a ton of hate mail, death threats, Homan says, you know what? You can yell, scream, threaten me, intimidate me all you want. It's not going to change my mind. We're going to deport illegals. The faster, the better. Roll cut 12. Mike.
Decisions aren't based on protests and rallies and hate mail and, people that are, concerned about the way this operation was conducted. I don't make decisions based on protests and hate mail and rallies. They can protest at a vacant house all they want. No one's there. I'm down here in D.C., but it's unfortunate that they don't listen to the facts of the case. They want to protest my house. The bad thing is it's going to cause law enforcement to be tied up here for a while, because not only the local law enforcement is going to be tied up, but my own security detail. I got Virginia State Police around my home here in Virginia 24/7 because of death threats from criminal cartels who didn't know about the New York property until, the protesters that put all the media, social media this week. So that's going to cost my security detail an extra security threat. Now the criminal cartels do know I own property in upstate New York, but you know what? We'll deal with that. But the people need to understand decisions are made on the results of a criminal investigation and what transpires during that criminal investigation. Protests and rallies, they don't mean anything to me. So go ahead and exercise your First Amendment rights.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I mean, yeah, of course, I'm all for the First Amendment. No one's a bigger champion of the First Amendment than the Kuhner man. But it's one thing to hold a rally in front of the state legislature, or if you have a permit, whatever, Boston Common or wherever it is. It's quite another to hold a rally in front of someone's personal home, threatening to murder them, or hanging them in effigy, or saying we're going to break into your house and kill you and your family. Those are threats. To me, that's a big, I don't know how that's covered by the First Amendment, to be honest. I can't get into my home. I can't get out of my home. You're doxing me. You're putting my address out. So the drug cartels and gangbangers who I'm trying to lock up and deport and detain know where I live, where my family lives, so they can kill us. This is what I mean. They're getting vicious. This is getting absolutely vicious. Listen now, just very quick. I want to play one more cut. This was the Boston side of the hands-off rally. So this is a video of the rally organizer, Kate O'Toole. Now listen to, and by the way, she's a lifer. She does a lot of radical left-wing causes. She's done a lot of activism, a lot of rallies over many, many years. This is not her first rodeo. Believe me. Roll cut 26. Mike.
It's a time for everybody to get up from the kitchen table and say, hands off our government, hands off our Constitution. Elon Musk's interference into the databases of people's private information, Social Security, lots of concerns. Last time checked, we were close to 10,000, but that's usually a way low number than what actually shows up.
So you can tell, that's what I said, you play the cut, what usually shows up, you can tell they have been doing these kinds of rent-a-mobs, these kinds of protests on whatever the issue is for years. Soros ponies up the cash, other organizations help to plan and organize it, and they get their shock troops out and they, whatever, $20, $40, $50. If you're really good, $100 an hour. You know, they give them their signs, they give them their talking points, they call the media, and let's create an artificial sense of crisis. So, we've seen this movie again and again and again. And notice, hands off our government. Oh, so you want the fraud to continue? Hands off our Constitution. What part of the Constitution is being violated? What? Like literally, what? Hands off getting access to all those Social Security numbers in the Social Security Administration. Oh, you mean the 15 million that we now found out were fraudulently getting Social Security checks? The ones over 120 years old? And then we found out through Elon and Doge that many of them were illegals who were being registered to vote. And many of them, in fact, did vote. Oh, so you mean your secret slush fund? That's what you don't want Elon to access. Oh, I get it now. Hey, you phony, you fraud, you. 617-266-6868. Okay, quick, this is from 603. You can text the Kuhner man, 70470, and this baby's a doozy. Jeff, it comes down to this. Through the constant use of the fake news media and these dumbed-down, Soros-funded rent-a-mobs, will the public be swayed into standing against their own best interest and be conned into shooting themselves in the foot one more time? On the one hand, I think enough of the public over the past 4 years has personally felt the pain of what the communist Democrats and the globalists have to offer America, that this propaganda campaign won't be successful. But on the other hand, we do still live in a society that is largely uninformed on the issues, and public opinion can be very fickle. So ultimately, the ball is in the court of the populace. Whatever way this goes will be on our own heads. Succor us once, shame on you. Succor us twice, shame on us. Very well said, 603. Beth in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Beth, and welcome.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Beth?
Great. So myself and my husband, we've been huge Trump supporters. We've done sign waves in Plastow, New Hampshire since before the election. A group of about 12 of us would have sign waves. And my husband and I, he was an alternate delegate, so we went to the convention. So we're very pro-Trump. So a group of us, about 10 of us, went to the protest on Saturday. There was over 100 people there in front of the town hall, and we kind of, went on our side, went to the side, about 10 of us with our American flags, Trump flags, pro-Doge, and one by one they came over to us. They were very confrontational, and first gentleman was pretty nice. He had a Biden hat and a little flag. Said, hey, we could have a beer and discuss this civilly. I go, yeah, we could. So I chatted with him. That was fine. A woman came over with a pro-democracy sign and said, okay, just want to talk to you for a few minutes, and we're for the same thing. And then she just started in and was screaming and yelling. And, I tried to stay away from that. Then she screamed at one of the people next to me. He was a moron, screaming top of her lungs.
Beth, if you don't mind me asking, I promise I'll let you finish. Was she using profanity, obscenities? Was she swearing? Was she dropping F-bombs?
Yes, she certainly was.
Now, Beth, because I know what people are going to say. The liberals that listen say, oh, Beth must have said something, or one of the 10 people that were with you. You must have antagonized her. You must have insulted her. You must have provoked her. Did anybody say, in other words, did your side throw the first punch, the first verbal punch? Or was this all coming from her?
From them. And she actually came over that one. At first she said, oh, you're so brave to be here. I said, we're just showing support for our president. Oh, yeah. And then another person came over to me and said how rude I was. And I said, excuse me, you're rude and you're disrespecting the veterans. I said, my husband's a veteran. And I had just put on my mittens, so I had the Trump flag and the American flag on the same side. And he said, because the way I held that, I was disrespectful to veterans. And he started to yell at me. And so I just turned my back, and so then he said I was disrespectful to him because I turned around. Yeah.
Just because
something.
You turned around, he said that was disrespectful to him.
So one of the women in our group got in her car and put the radio on and drove back and forth with the God Bless America. Proud to be an American. Yep.
Beth, did you ever feel physically in danger or threatened at any point?
Well, right before we left, when it was 2 and they went to leave to go to the Havel rally, there was one gentleman, and he was probably close to 60. He was the most belligerent of anyone, just screaming, yelling, got in his car, screamed as he got in his car. And that was, that wasn't comfortable. That wasn't comfortable. No.
Beth, let me ask you this. Were you surprised? Because the sense I get is, again, older white people, 50s, 60s, 70s, the way you described the crowd. So to be honest, these are people either approaching to becoming senior citizens, are senior citizens. Honestly, you look at senior citizens as the voice of reason, of wisdom, of sobriety, of intelligence, of reflection. They seem to me like they're out of their minds. Were you surprised that they were so rabid and so obscene, that they were just so angry and just swearing and being so insulting and so rude? Did the level of their anger and hatred shock you?
I mean, just because I don't think that. I just can't even think the way they think, and so it was unsettling. I've talked to number of friends, my husband, because he wasn't able to make it. And I said, I just didn't expect to have that. People approach us like that and to that kind of reaction. Yeah. And so then actually after I called my dad and said, he's 90 years old, check in. Hey, how are you doing? Well, he's very liberal. And he said he lives in Haverhill. And he said he drove the streets of Haverhill. It was like a 4th of July parade. He was so inspired, and he doesn't understand who the people were that voted for Trump, because there's so many supporters that were out there on Saturday. And I said, well, I just can't even go there with him.
Beth, what do you think is driving all this? What is driving these people to go out and protest on a Saturday, to be that angry, to be that livid, to walk up to you? You're not doing anything. You're just having an American flag, showing your support for President Trump. You're peaceful. You're calm. Yet they'll walk up to you, start yelling, screaming, shouting, swearing, raging. What's driving them to this point?
Likes the cause, and they're a little out there anyway. They hear it on the media, Facebook, and they just felt like this is their calling, and they were driven. They were driven. Yeah. So it was interesting. I'm glad we went to have, just to show our support for the president and Elon. But it was definitely interesting. And they didn't last much more than an hour. It was raining. They got pretty wet, and off they went to Haverhill, the next rally.
Wow. Beth, thank you very much. I really, really appreciate it. 617-266-6868. Look, I just quickly go back to my monologue, my opening monologue, when I talked about, Cory Booker. Okay, I am Spartacus. So going back to Spartacus, 25 hours, he's on the Senate floor, breaks the record for the longest filibuster, even though technically it wasn't a filibuster, but let that go. And he's the nowhere man. All of that sound and fury, as I said, signifying nothing. What did he accomplish? Nothing. What did he ultimately say? Nothing. It's all for nothing. All they did was waste an entire day of the Senate's time. That's it. That's it. There's no theme that they're rallying around. There's no great truth that they're rallying around. There's no real purpose or mission or objective to any of this. It's just yell, scream, stomp, throw a tantrum. His eyes are bugging out throughout the whole 25 hours. Honestly, I thought his eyes were going to pop out of his skull. And that's as Beth just described it. They show up for an hour, and democracy's under attack. Hate Elon, hate Trump. Hands off our government. Hands off our Social Security. And they're gone. So you show up, you're complaining about nothing because none of this is happening. Literally, it's not happening. And you yell, you scream, you insult people that disagree with you, you swear in their face, and then nothing is achieved. And then you go to another town. You go to Haverhill, and you rinse, repeat, and you do the same thing. What, you think does it make you feel better? Well, you're just venting? Is that what this is? You just vent and keep venting? And we're supposed to admire you or respect you or take you seriously? When you don't even know what you're talking about? 617, they're rudderless. They're incoherent. They have no message because ultimately they stand for nothing. Nothing. They just hate Trump because they've been told and conditioned and brainwashed to hate Trump. Really, I got to say, the power of the media is immense. It really is. I mean, they did it during COVID, and they're doing it again. Thomas, agree, disagree? Thomas in Florida. Thanks for holding, Thomas, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Thomas.
How are you today?
Good, good. I mean, I'm happy I didn't attend any of those rallies, Thomas. That's 2 hours of my life I'd never get back.
Great. I got something to share with you. A little off topic, but I uncovered some information about Chief Justice Roberts. 2018, the 21st of December, he put in place 11 of those FISA court judges to start this ball rolling. So I uncovered that, and I'm like, holy crap, this is where a lot of this stuff started and it was initiated from, because people hold up the Chief Justice of the land in high esteem, but this guy is, I don't know, he's definitely compromised. You mentioned Norm Eisen the other day. There's a lot of stuff here.
Well, look, Norm Eisen is one of the key, if not the key architect of the lawfare and the persecution of Trump over the last 4 or 5 years. And he and Roberts are best friends, and they hang out together. And he spends a week at Eisen's home, his what home? It's a mansion, 150 rooms in the Czech Republic. So he's sleeping over at Eisen's, villa, and they're eating, they're drinking expensive wines. They're throwing parties. They're going through apparently American law sessions together. Ay, ay, ay. And then apparently, look, I just read this story over the weekend. There was a huge Supreme Court decision, maybe about 4 years ago. It was either 4 or 5 years ago. Don't quote me exactly, but it was around 2020, 2021, where the Supreme Court ruled 5-4 that illegals had to be counted in the census. That, conservatives were demanding that only citizens should be counted in the census. No. The Democrats wanted illegals counted in the census. Why? Because that gives Democrat states, like, say, California or New York or, Illinois or Massachusetts, more representation, more seats in Congress, especially, obviously, in the House. So it's a huge power grab for the Democrats. The fifth deciding vote. Take a guess. Chief Justice John Roberts. Chief Justice John Roberts was the tie-breaking vote. So illegals had to be counted in the census, which gives the Democrats a lot more power in terms of representation and many more seats in Congress. So the guy's a Democrat operative. He's a deep state operative who is clearly compromised. There's no question. And, bringing this back to these rallies, I would not be surprised if he's palling around with Norm Eisen, if he's palling around with Chief Judge Boasberg, who is really gunning for Trump, that district court judge. I would not be surprised if Roberts pals around with George Soros. Eisen's close to Soros. Boasberg is close to Soros. Many of the people that I know are in Roberts' network and inner circle are close to Soros. So I would not be surprised if Chief Justice John Roberts is a pawn or a lackey of Soros. So that's why if I'm Trump, I bet you watch your back, because Roberts is just itching to stick the knife right in. Thomas, final word to you.
I just got to say, uncovering this, I'm like, how do we get the word out to the public because of this overwhelming propaganda? Down here, there's a lot of us that are in the know, and we have our own groups down here. So we try to educate the public, and like you said earlier in the show, that some people, they don't want to hear it. I had a girl jumping up in the air and doing helicopters with her hands and fingers in her ears because I had a Trump hat on, and it triggered her. It was crazy.
It's crazy. I mean, to me, that's the operative word. Thomas, thank you very much for that call. You see, it's emotional conditioning now. You're seeing it over and over again. To me, that's the significance of the rallies. You see anyone with a Trump hat. Yeah, you effing that's your mother ever. I mean, that's what it is. I'll run you over. I'll run you over. I'll kill you. We should kill you. You know, as an example. Or as Thomas said, you know, a woman with the helicopter, like, ah, 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 ah. So that's what they're trying now to indoctrinate people to hate based on emotion, not based on facts or the truth or evidence. Or again, notice whenever you say, well, what has Trump done that's so dictatorial? They can't name you one thing. What has Elon done that's so dictatorial? Well, you say they're stealing money. What money have they stolen? Like $1, a penny, 1 penny. What did they, a nickel? What did they steal? They have no answer. Well, no, I'm saying, how are they cutting Social Security? What, has your check gone down? Chris in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Chris, and welcome.
Hey, how you doing, Jeff? First-time caller.
Welcome, Chris.
So I live across the street from the Plastow Town Hall where that rally was, and it was the same people that were in Haverhill before, because the Haverhill one started at 11:30 and went to 1. The one in Plastow was from 1 to 2. You know, I was out there with my American flag. I had Proud to Be American blaring on my radio on my front steps. My kids were riding their tricycles with American flags. And then as the rally was over, there's a lady who pulled up. She had mass plates, and she stood and was watching me. She was pointing at me with her finger out the window. But my father-in-law's a veteran. He was standing right next to me. And she says to me, "I know where you live now." And I said, "Come, please, get out of the car, get out of the car." And she gave me the finger, flipped off, and took off. I mean, these people are crazy. They're just rabid lunatics.
So literally, and Chris, she sees you've got kids on their tricycles. She's got, you know, your father is beside you, a veteran, and she says, she's threatening you. She says, "I know where you live now." And she's giving you the bird. She's flipping you the bird, giving you the middle finger.
And my kids are young, 7 and 4, and then my oldest said, "Daddy, why is she so mad for?" I said, "I don't know, buddy. Just stay away from those people. They're vicious, angry people."
Wow. I mean, and Chris, you know, the way the media is portraying them. I mean, by the way, the Boston Herald, forgive me, worse than the Globe. The Globe is the moonbat Democrat paper. The Globe is the rhino rag. I think, the Globe, you know, would be worse than the Herald. You got to see that puff piece the Herald put out. They should be ashamed of themselves. This was peaceful. There were no incidents, no arrests. Oh, what a civilized crowd. The signs were so polite. The people were so polite. And I'm like, you know, even by the Herald standards, I know you lie for a living, but my God, I got nothing but emails from people like you, Chris. It doesn't matter whether it was in New Hampshire or in Massachusetts or in New York, because we have a big audience across the country. I had people in Atlanta emailing me saying, "Jeff, you wouldn't believe the vile stuff that's being said." Up in Maine, I've got Senator Angus King, now dead to rights, cheering on the murder, the assassination of Trump and Elon Musk. And it was like this everywhere. And I'm like, polite, civilized, peaceful? On what planet? Chris, I got to ask you, what do you think is driving an elderly woman, really, she's most likely someone's grandmother, to walk up to you, you're minding your own business, with your 2 children on their tricycles, and literally threaten you and your family and give you the middle finger? What causes someone to behave in this kind of an unhinged, hateful fashion? I mean, this woman, if she saw herself on video, would probably be ashamed if you showed it to her, let's say, a month from now, and said, look how you behaved. Look at you. Look at you, attacking a father, his children, his home, threatening his home, his family. Why? Because they have American flags? Because what? They voted for Trump? What? They can't vote for the president of the United States? And this is how you treat them? Chris, what is driving these people?
Must be getting paid, like everybody says. I mean, what else? And then all of a sudden at 1 o'clock they leave and they go to the next one, or if there was the next one. I mean, my father-in-law was like, hey, if you give me $200, I'll go stand out there too. you know, I mean, why wouldn't you?
Oh, so Chris, part of it is you're saying don't even take them that seriously.
Exactly, yeah. It's a joke.
Ah, interesting.
It's a joke.
Interesting.
Yep.
Chris, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. Russ in Boston. Thanks for holding, Russ, and welcome.
Jeff, the big difference between the hippies of the 1960s, they were against the government. Today's useful idiots are in bed with the fascist government. That is the major difference between the two. Now, last Saturday was the largest demonstration of political insanity. The mental disorder of liberalism was in full view, without a shadow of a doubt. Jeff, it is so important to bring back manufacturing jobs. Manufacturing jobs open the door for low-skilled workers. Entry-level jobs require minimal training, giving opportunity for low-skilled workers to move up the corporate ladder. Our service economy does not create enough entry-level jobs. With our failing schools, entry-level jobs will make a difference for millions of Americans. And what these ignorant fools, they just don't understand it. They don't get it, okay? They don't live in the world of reality. If the Democratic Party gets back in power before 8 years of Trumpism, it will mean the death to America, our way of life, and freedom across the globe. The majority of Massachusetts voters are lost cause. They will never see the light of realism. To them, the truth be damned. The panic peddlers are having a field day right now, but I do remain optimistic. Before the midterm election, we will see the positive effects of Trumpism. And I firmly believe that.
Russ, let me ask you this, because it's going to tie into our poll question of the day. 2 days in a row, stock market was a bloodbath. Over $6 trillion of wealth lost. People are now saying we could be heading towards a recession. Bill Ackman, who's one of the big players on Wall Street, in fact, voted for Trump in 2024, says that Trump needs to call a 90-day timeout to renegotiate these trade deals, or else we're heading for, quote unquote, a nuclear economic winter. He says it'll be the greatest self-inflicted wound in world economic history. He's telling Trump, call a timeout. If you don't, the stock market will crash. Are you concerned, Russ, that the market may just bottom out and crater?
I think we're going to go through a major correction. Okay, look, that happens every once.
Basically, so Russ, what Russ is saying is it's going to go through a massive correction this week. We're probably going to see whether Trump's tariffs ultimately succeed or not, at least politically. I'm not talking economically, but in terms of the political ramifications. So, as you know, one of the things that drove this hands-off rally to over 1,000 demonstrations with massive wall-to-wall media coverage, the backdrop, the context was the bloodbath. And there's no other way to say it. It was a bloodbath on Wall Street on Thursday and Friday. The Dow lost $6.6 trillion in total wealth. It is going down. It is dropping like a stone. All indications are that when the stock market opens at 9, it is going to continue to decline. It is going to continue to hemorrhage. It is now getting to the point that J.P. Morgan, that Goldman Sachs, the Federal Reserve, others are now predicting a recession, that they believe that these tariffs, this is their argument, that the Trump tariffs have so rattled and disrupted global markets and the global trading system that this will now precipitate effectively a stock market crash. And with a stock market crash will come a deep, deep recession. This is now being compounded by Bill Ackman, who went on X yesterday. He is a supporter of Trump, voted for Trump in 2024. He's a big Wall Street guy who says that Trump now needs to take a 90-day timeout. In other words, just say, okay, we're not going to apply any tariffs for 90 days and renegotiate tariff deals with every individual country. He says if he does not do that, if he continues this 10% baseline tariff, remember, Trump is imposing or setting a 10% baseline tariff on products and goods from every country in the world. Others, he's adding more. Those that rip us off more, say like the Chinese, like Communist China or Mexico or the European Union or India or Canada or whoever, they get more tariffs, reciprocal tariffs. But there's a baseline 10%. Bill Ackman now says if Trump does not reverse course, and he means today, tomorrow, that it will become such a self-inflicted wound that we are staring for a quote-unquote nuclear economic winter, meaning a complete crash in the economy. Now, the Democrats are seizing on this drop and decline in the stock market, saying Trump now owns the economy, and his policies directly are not just going to hurt growth, are not just going to lead to higher prices, may not just spark a severe, deep recession, but they're affecting ordinary Americans. How? Because so many Americans have their 401ks, their retirement packages and plans invested in the stock market. So the lower the stock market goes, the more damage to people's retirement. Listen now, and this is their line of attack. It's one after another, being echoed by the media relentlessly. Listen now to Senator Adam Piece of Schiff on NBC's Meet the Mess. Okay, Meet the Press. Roll cut 18. Mike.
He calls this an economic revolution. He says that these tariffs are necessary to reset the global economic order and so that the United States is treated fairly on the world stage. How do you respond to that? Do you agree with any part of that?
I don't agree with any part of that, and unfortunately, he's wrecking our economy. I think people have seen their retirement savings on fire, and there he is out on the golf course. That may end up being the most enduring image of the Trump presidency. That is the president out on a golf cart while people's retirement is in flames.
So the people's retirement are in flames and Trump is golfing. Okay, this was over the weekend. Listen now to the nowhere man. This is Cory Booker. I am Spartacus. So he blabbed and blabbed and blabbed for 25 hours. How someone can say nothing for 25 hours is beyond me, but this guy did it. Well, listen now to him. He got the talking point memo. This is him on ABC's with George Stephanopoulos. ABC News This Week. Roll cut 19. Mike.
I've never seen an administration in my lifetime do something so monumentally wrong and that so staggeringly hurts American people. I've been hearing all day yesterday from frightened Americans who've saved for their entire lives for retirement in the coming months, but now know they can't because in one fell swoop, Donald Trump has devastated their retirement accounts, their 401ks. I know millions of Americans who are living paycheck to paycheck who already in their administration have seen rising prices, even though he promised they would go down, rising inflation, even though he promised it would go down. And now they're bracing themselves for seeing their monthly bills go up because of what this president did, and that will devastate them.
This is what I find incredible. Okay? You want to talk about hypocrites. You phonies, you frauds, you. Who gave us historic inflation under Biden? You did. Now, all of a sudden, you're all worried about prices going up? All of a sudden now you're worried about people's 401ks? After you devastated the standard of living of the entire middle and working class? You, who racked up record debts and deficits? You, who gutted out the entire middle class and practically destroyed us? And now all of a sudden, you're worried about the economy and you're lecturing Trump? Listen now to Trump. He was on Air Force One, and the reporters, the press corps, they sense blood in the water. And so one of them says, how much more pain are you willing to inflict on the market and on the American people? Listen to Trump's combative response. Roll cut 5, Mike.
Pain in the market, at some point you're unwilling to tolerate this idea of what Trump put? Is there a threshold?
I think your question is so stupid. I think it's I don't want anything to go down, but sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something. And we have such a horrible, we have been treated so badly by other countries because we had stupid leadership that allowed this to happen. They took our businesses, they took our money, they took our jobs, they moved it to Mexico, they moved it to Canada, they moved a lot of it to China, and it's not sustainable. We're not going to do it. Now we have hundreds of billions of dollars is pouring into our country. On a monthly basis, it's pouring, it's already started because I put tariffs on. And eventually it's going to straighten out and our country will be solid and strong again.
So Trump is saying it's medicine. Okay, so how badly will the stock market bleed today? We're going to find out in about 11 minutes. But apparently, from all early indications and what was happening in Tokyo with the Japanese markets, which apparently took a beating, they think the hemorrhaging, the bleeding is going to continue. So now Trump is under tremendous pressure from the corporate economic Wall Street elites. The Wall Street Journal, Fox Business, CNBC, Bloomberg, of course, the media they're foaming at the mouth. They sense now real economic turbulence ahead, and they're going to wrap it around Trump's neck, and they believe they can destroy his presidency. And so the question now I have for you, and Trump saying, look, trust me on this. It's already starting to work. It's medicine. Medicine is never pleasant. Medicine is never easy, but medicine it is. And in the end, we're going to be a much stronger, wealthier, healthier country for me putting on these tariffs and bringing in all of this manufacturing and supply chains and good paying manufacturing, working class jobs back to America. So it's the Kuhner Country poll question of the day. Sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Is the drop in the stock market, in your view, a temporary blip or a long-term warning? In other words, do you think this too shall pass? And eventually the market will rebound and it'll be what it once was before and even more? Or like Bill Ackman and Jamie Dimon and a lot of these very powerful Wall Street financiers, they're now, for them, they're ringing the alarm bell. They're saying we're heading for a crash, maybe even a severe deep recession. Ackman is even saying a nuclear economic winter, i.e. a depression. So, my question to you, is this a blip? A, yes. B, is this a long-term warning? So, A, it's a blip, temporary blip. B, a long-term economic warning of some serious economic damage, a recession, high prices, whatever, to come. A, blip. B, serious long-term warning. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, KUHN is in national ER. I want to hear from all of you, Kuhner country. Please vote. And I'll tell you why. I gauge MAGA, and so frankly does the Trump White House. But Kuhner country is one of the barometers. If Kuhner country is worried, I think people in the White House are going to say, maybe our base is starting to get nervous. If Kuhner country is not worried, then politically Trump's going to say, let's keep going. That's just my guess. You can also vote via X. I'm very active. Again, last night I was very active. If you can follow me, please follow me on X. You can vote there as well. My handle at the Kuhner Report, all one word, KUHN is in national ER. Let me be brutally honest with you like I'm in the confessional. Grace and I have had several spirited discussions, not arguments, but spirited discussions over the dinner table all weekend long about Trump's tariffs. She's not against the tariffs. She thinks we have to phase them in. She thinks we have been getting ripped off. She thinks that we've lost a lot of our manufacturing, given it away, our wealth, our jobs, our manufacturing to China and to other countries. But she really doesn't like the way Trump is doing it. She thinks he's making a big mistake, that the sequencing is all wrong, that he should have gone with tax cuts first, deregulation, energy, really created an economic boom, and then phase in the tariffs down the road and hit China first, do it selectively. In other words, don't go with the tariffs early and heavy and across the board, the way Trump did it. And she's very nervous, very skittish about the stock market. She works in real estate. She says there's a lot of economic uncertainty now. Homes are not moving. Inventory is not moving. People are not building. People are not buying. People are not selling. They are very nervous. They don't know what the future holds. And that is death to a capitalist economy. And so she doesn't like the way Trump has done the tariffs. And she believes it's going to cost us, meaning the country, economically, and we may even lose the midterms over it. She's that concerned. I completely disagree with her. Grace tends to like stability. She, kind of favors stability. I don't mind risk taking. I don't. That's been my motto my whole life. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. This is an economic revolution. That's what we voted for. This is a reordering of the entire global trading system. This is what we voted for. To me, the first answer I have is he campaigned on this. He didn't just say we're going to tariff China. He said we're going to put tariffs across the board. Every country is going to feel it. Because every country to some degree or other has been ripping us off. And the days of ripping the United States off are over. It's just not sustainable. Now, furthermore, I'm telling you, Trump has already won. You may disagree with me, which is fine, but I'm giving you as I said, like I'm in the confessional. Trump has already won the tariff war. Now, why do I say that? Look at the border. Because of the pressure he's put on Mexico. And in some other ways, Canada as well, both borders. Illegal immigration is now down to almost zero. Zero. Fentanyl is now down to a 10-year low. It's already working. Now, these are numbers, and people tend to get lost in numbers, but please, you have to hear this. Trump has already secured, listen to this, $1.2 trillion in foreign investment. This is guaranteed now. In U.S. manufacturing, $1.2 trillion. They're going to be building factories in America. Their products and goods in America. Not in China, not in Europe, not in Canada, not in Mexico, here. Good paying American jobs here. He's also, listen to this, he's now received over 3 trillion, almost 4 trillion pledged. Now, it has to still actualize. The 1.2 trillion is happening. The almost 4 trillion, they've pledged it, but now Trump wants to make sure they follow through. Now, I think they obviously will follow through. As Trump is saying, we're looking at $5-6 trillion in massive investment in manufacturing, in plants, in factories, all across the United States. The economy is going to boom. $5 to $6 trillion. Do you know how much money that is? Now, on top of that, what the media is not reporting, and you need to hear this, all of you, almost every country in the world, let me repeat that, almost every country in the world has called Donald Trump on the phone. They're ringing the phone at the White House off the hook. Every single one of them are lining up, bowing the knee, bending the knee. They're bowing. They want to renegotiate. No. We'll drop our tariff rates. What do you want, Donald? How low do you want us to go, Donald? Because you see, we have the largest market in the world. We have what the whole world wants, access to our market. So as Trump likes to say, we're holding the cards. Now, you want to see how good the deal is? Or how bad this economic surrender is becoming from other countries? Taiwan and Vietnam. The communist regime of Vietnam has now called Trump up and said, we're going to drop our tariffs to 0. 0. Not 10, not 5, not 2, not 1. 0. 0. All tariffs, all non-tariff trade barriers gone. Taiwan, same thing. Canada now says, let's make a deal. The European Union says, let's make a deal. Japan, let's make a deal. Mexico, let's make a deal. So as Trump keeps saying, relax, stay calm, have a drink. We're going to renegotiate all of these trade deals, country by country by country. And you're going to see they're not tariffing us anymore. India, by the way, is completely surrendered. Completely surrendered. And those were 1,000% tariff, literally 1,000%. So our goods are not going to be tariffed anymore at 1,000 or 500 or like in Canada, 270%. No. Our exports are going to boom. And we're going to get a lot of jobs and a lot of investment and a lot of manufacturing is going to pour right back into the United States. Now, will it take 3-6 months? Of course, you can't build a plant overnight. But instead of the money going outside, offshoring, outsourcing, as it has for 30 freaking years, now trillions and trillions and trillions are going to be insourcing, inflowing, coming into the United States. And let me just make one final point. Last point, I'm going to go right to the phone lines. What we're watching in real time is an economic revolution. In real time, let me explain to you what's happening now with the with the stock market. The globalists, the rich, the wealthy Wall Street elites, the ones who are crying, the ones who are now predicting doom and gloom. They are the ones who are starting to lose money. They are now trying to punish Trump, literally punish Trump, because he has decided to put the interests of the working man and the working woman first. And they think if they punish him enough, they can break him and have him cry uncle. And Trump understands that if you reorder the global trading system, if you reorder and rebalancing our trade system, you're going to rebalance and reorder the American economy. And instead of having an economy dominated by the rich, dominated by oligarchs and plutocrats and multinational corporations and these wealthy, powerful globalists, you're going to have an economy that we had after World War II. A middle-class economy, a working-class economy, an economy based on manufacturing, on an industrial base where we actually make things of value and we sell it, not just here, but around the world. And what is remarkable is the same idiots in the Democratic Party that are yelling, they're for the rich, they're for oligarchs, Elon, Donald. Really? You think the rich like Donald Trump? You think the oligarchs like Donald Trump? Wall Street can't stand the guy. They just lost $6 trillion with this guy. They lost $6 trillion of their phony money. It's mostly phony money. They lost $6 trillion of their phony money with this guy. The wealthy and the oligarchs can't stand this guy. Why? Because he's putting in place a trading tariff system that doesn't benefit them, but benefits ordinary middle working class people. If you're pro-working class, if you're pro-middle class, if you want to end globalist rule and this corporate plutocracy, the rule of these oligarchs, then you have to support Donald Trump's tariffs. Because no other person has done more in the first 80 days of his presidency to rebuild our economy and protect the middle working class of our country than Donald J. Trump. So it's literally the exact opposite. He's not for the wealthy, he's against the wealthy. He's not for the oligarchs, he's against the oligarchs. Wall Street wants to shoot this guy right now. And that's why they're trying to inflict as much pain and punishment on the stock market, to inflict pain and punishment on Trump, hoping this will cause a crack with his base and that the American public will turn their back on Trump. So what Trump is now doing, this is a titanic struggle. It is a life-death struggle between Trump and the globalists. If Trump can politically survive the next week, the next 10 days, because I think the stock market's going to continue to go down, and the outcry is going to go up and up and up. If he can weather the storm, I think he'll have broken him. And once he breaks the oligarchs and the globalists, the American economy will boom for the middle of the country, the forgotten American, like it hasn't in over 60 years. This is the battle. Trump is fighting it early on the strongest ground that he can. If he wins, we win. If he loses, America, we lose. Agree, disagree. Lynn in Dartmouth. Thanks for holding, Lynn, and welcome.
Well, hi, Jeff.
Hi.
Oh, this is my first time calling.
Welcome. Welcome, Lynn.
Thank you. So I went, can you hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, good. Good. So I went to the rally in Dartmouth. on Saturday, and there were about 15 of us for pro-Trump and Elon, and hundreds of people against. And we got there about an hour before they did, so I really wasn't expecting the crowd that showed up. There were a lot of police detail there when we got there, and they had cones with the intention of keeping us separate. And anyway, so we set up where we wanted to because we were there first. When they started to come, they kind of trickled in, but then all of a sudden there were just hordes and hordes of them all over the place. I didn't really understand how that happened, but I later found out online that buses were coming in with them from all over, I guess, probably the paid protesters. Most of the signs that I saw were, actually I saw a lot of different signs, a lot with profanity, of course, against Elon and Trump, but a lot of it was a lot of old people were there, and they had signs that were worried about their Social Security. And what made me so sad is that, Trump's trying to save their Social Security, and they're just so sold that they don't understand that. We had a few interesting conversations with people. One of them was a lady holding a sign about we didn't elect Elon. And my friend said to her, well, let me ask you a question. We didn't elect Fauci, and he shut the whole country down. And she just didn't know what to say after that. She just said, I'm not here to fight, and she walked away. We had a few other discussions, but we also had a lot of mean-spirited people. We had some good discussions with people. There were some friendly people, I guess, in a way, that weren't violent. But there were a few violent instances, and one of them was, to my understanding, a person was taking pictures of someone's kids. They put it up to the father's face, and he was feeling very threatened by this person. He pushed the phone out of his hands, or he pushed the phone out of his face, and the man went for his throat. Are you there, Jeff?
I'm listening to every word, Lynn.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. So he went for his throat, and the police quickly intervened and separated the situation. And then the wife tried to help calm her husband down. And later, a woman was she was holding a flag, and she was reaching down for her megaphone. And at this point, the crowd we were not separated at all. They were just getting in between us, and they were kind of pushing us, just trying to overwhelm us with whatever signs. There were only 15 of us, so they were just kind of pressing in on us. And she reached down to get her megaphone, and maybe her flag bumped someone. She doesn't know what happened, but all of a sudden her flag was ripped out of her hands, and a man looked like he was coming to punch her. And she said, help, or please help. And a policeman jumped in between that situation. So at that point, we decided it was time to leave. And the way it was set up, there was construction behind us. There was no way to get to our cars except to go through the crowd of hundreds and hundreds of protesters. So we asked for police escort to get out. So we gathered all of our people. We got police escort to go through. And of course, there were a lot of comments on the way out as we went. And I can't say I was silent back, but I try to be respectful where I need to be, of course, but I just feel like, and I remember one of our ladies, she said, not very Christian of you. And I was thinking, these people aren't Christians.
They're not. No, you're right. No, look, Lynn, what you're describing is a mob. It's a rabid, rampaging mob. And a mob is a very dangerous thing. And a mob is a very stupid thing. Okay, I want to thank Sergeant Rock on Messenger. He sent me Trump's latest post on Truth Social. And literally, he just posted it a few minutes ago. And it's almost as if they were listening to the Kuhner man's monologue. I'm telling you, really. So here is what this is what President Trump just said. And I think this is his answer to probably another brutal day on the stock market. Here's Trump's answer. The United States has a chance to do something that should have been done decades ago. Don't be weak. Don't be stupid. Don't be a panicon. He puts in parentheses, a new party based on weak and stupid people. In other words, don't panic. Be strong, courageous, and patient. And greatness will be the result. I agree. I completely agree. Completely. Not 100, 1,000%. And let me just, this is from 617. And to me, hits the nail right on the head. Jeff, in 1988, Donald Trump said foreign countries must pay tariffs. So he's been saying this now for decades and decades and decades. In 1996, Nancy Pelosi, in a speech, encouraged all of Congress to back reciprocal tariffs. In particular, saying that China was ripping the United States off. In 2008, Bolshevik Bernie Sanders said he wanted tariffs, complaining that jobs by the millions are going overseas. In 2018, Barack Hussein Obama called for reciprocal tariffs. Only one hasn't sold out. Pelosi took the money. Bernie took the money. Barack took the money. They all sold out to the globalist corporate elites on Wall Street. Trump is the only one who has remained pro-working class, America first. Amen. Amen. He can't be bought. And that's what I love about him. Nick in Weymouth. Thanks for holding, Nick, and welcome.
Back when you say he's a grifter, he has donated, his hedge funds have donated millions of dollars, mostly to Democrats. And what Republicans have donated to? Just other grifters. What does he do? He uses them all for insider trading. Yeah, that's right. Like in February of 2020, when Pfizer talked to what? Several hundred congressmen and senators and told them that in a few months they're going to be working on a vaccine. And then the board itself awarded itself of Pfizer 2 weeks after the election, of course, not to give Trump any glory for that, right? And help him. They partook of insider stock trading. Did they go to jail? Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, they unanimously approved it themselves. Anyway, let's talk about the stock market real quickly. It's what you paid for it and what you sell it for. Today, Tesla one is opened at 239. 239 it closed last night. It went down about 214 today. Does anybody understand that when someone sells a stock for $214, that somebody is actually buying that share? These things don't go in the toilet. No, hedge funds buy those shares. They don't buy 10, they don't buy 20, they buy 10 million. So when it's time for them, short term, long term, let's say they go short term, when it goes up $5 higher of what they paid for it, we'll multiply 10 million times $5. It's kind of like a big pocket of change. This is what they do. The suckers are the 401k people. I was one of those, okay? Yeah, it gets matched. Not as matched as you like it to get matched, unless you're a heavy hitter in the corporation. It gets matched, all right, but you're lucky. You will be fortunate that when it comes your time to retire, or when it comes your time where you mandatorily have to withdraw X amount of dollars and then pay the taxes on it because you didn't, unless you got the Roth IRA where you pay the taxes up front. Either way, you lose. You would have been better off, unless you're a multimillionaire, right? You would have been better off investing in common sense shares, land, whatever yourself. CDs, whatever. You would have been better off. You wouldn't have lost your cash. I'm not blaming all these people, but they all got sucked in.
No. I mean, look, I got to say, Nick, you're making a very, very good point. And let me just add to your very good point. Look, and many people have been texting me, messaging me, emailing me all morning saying this. If the stock market plummets, well, that's a good opportunity for people to buy low. I'm not giving financial advice. I'm not telling you what you should do. I'm just going to speak for myself. If the stock market is bleeding, hemorrhaging 6.6 trillion, and it keeps going down and down and down, then to me, it's the time to buy. Because I'm betting on Trump. I'm betting personally that the tariffs are going to kick in, that the trillions of dollars are pouring in, that the economy is going to boom like it's never boomed before, and eventually the stock market's going to go way back up. So, you buy low and you sell high. So to me, this is an enormous opportunity. Now, I don't want to get into the weeds. I'm just going by what the business papers are saying, okay? So I'm reading a lot of business journalism. Most business reporters, journalists worth their salt are saying most of these stocks that are being sold off, the 6.6 trillion, they're mostly tech stocks. They're equities. In other words, make a long story short, they were over leveraged. It was a bubble. The bubble was destined to burst. It was inevitable. Now, the Trump tariffs may have been the pin that pops the bubble, but it doesn't matter. The bubble was going to burst. And the reason why, in 30 seconds, is what Joe Biden did in particular in the last year of his presidency was spend and spend and spend like a drunken sailor. I'm talking trillions of dollars to synthetically, artificially boost the economy. The economists call it a sugar high in order to help Kamala win the election. The Dow drops another 1,200 points. Actually, 1230. 1,000, actually 1243. Okay. So basically almost 1,250 points, about half an hour into the opening. S&P 500 is now in a bear market, which means essentially they're anticipating a possible recession. So, again, the bloodbath continues. Are you worried? Are you concerned? Do you think Trump should call for a 90-day pause on his tariffs to renegotiate some of these tariff deals, as Bill Ackman is urging him to do? Or do you think Trump is right to say, stand your ground? That in the end, it will be tough, it will be turbulent, it will be medicine, as he put it, but we will come out on the other side better, stronger, healthier, wealthier than ever before. Where do you stand? Kathy in Rochester. Thanks for holding, Kathy, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Kathy.
I stand with Trump. I believe in Trump. He is our leader. We elected him to lead the country, to make the change, and we all need to stand by him. But I'm calling to say that I am so disgusted with the Republican Party, with the RTCs, with the Republicans. Where are they? I was at that same stand out in Dartmouth this Saturday. The Dartmouth RTC sent out an email, and, I got there thinking that there would be, at least 100 people. There was about 15 people there. I was so disgusted. I can't even begin to tell you that there are people who send out, emails that they're going to have a standout, and then they don't even show. We were all very disheartened, and we all did leave because we were getting inundated by all the libloons. They were taking over. They were getting obnoxious. So we walked out. I wasn't afraid, but we did walk out and leave because we knew it's like, this isn't working. We need to get out of here now. But where are all the Republicans on the radio, on the television, in support of Trump? Where are they? I mean, this, I don't know what's going on, but it is really frustrating to be a conservative and to stand with Trump, because all the people that were standing with him have all like crawled into their little holes thinking that everything is okay. But we need to start making our voices heard and letting people know that what Trump is doing is exactly what our country needs. Because did you know that 94% of the stocks are held by only 8% of the people? So what he's doing is basically affecting the central banks, the investment banks, the institutions. We're all going to be okay with this. And we have to just tune out all the people who have negativity towards us and realize that Trump knows what he's doing, and we have to stand by him and, get everyone to realize that this is all going to work out in the end. We have to be patient, and we have to just do what needs to, like that saying, you got to do what you got to do. And this is what he's got to do to turn our country right side up again.
Oh, Kathy, I couldn't agree with you more. I really couldn't. Look, I said this on X, but I want to repeat it. The stock market is not the economy. They've tried to convince us, unfortunately, for the last 30 years. In fact, we've been indoctrinated, brainwashed. This all began under Bill Clinton, that the stock market was all the be-all and end-all. So under Bill Clinton, the stock market went up. Under George W. Bush, the stock market went up. Under Obama, the stock market went up. Under Biden, the stock market boomed under Biden. If you're a hedge fund guy, or if you're on Wall Street, and by the way, Wall Street now overwhelmingly backs the Democratic Party. This idea that Republicans are the party of the rich is garbage. It's a lie. The overwhelming majority of millionaires, billionaires, people who work on Wall Street, these big Wall Street corporations, they overwhelmingly back the Democrats. So, if you measure the economy by Wall Street and the stock market, Joe Biden was the greatest president we ever had. So they've conditioned us, or tried to condition us, to believe that how the stock market goes, America goes. That's a lie. The stock market overwhelmingly benefits the top 10%, the elites. I don't care about Wall Street. I've said this for 30 years. Sure, it's nice if it does well. People have investments, 401ks. I get it. Investment portfolios. To me, what matters is Main Street, not Wall Street. How's your take-home pay? How's inflation? Are you able to afford food, groceries, make your mortgage payment, make your rent payment, make your car payments? Can you put a little bit away to pay for your kids' college? Can you afford a car? That's what we had in the 1950s, in the 1960s, in the 1970s, in the 1980s. It was a middle-class country with an affordable middle-class standard of living. That has been destroyed systematically over the last 30 years. It's not all free trade. I'm not saying tariffs are the silver bullet, but it's been a big part of it. They outsourced our jobs. They outsourced our wealth. They outsourced our factories. They outsourced our manufacturing. What I find incredible is Trump can't reverse 30 years of economic treason, and that's what it was, economic treason, in 3 weeks. But give the guy a little bit of time. But you've got now $5 to $6 trillion either secured or pledged in massive investments from foreign companies and foreign countries to build in America. We're talking about an economic renaissance. So look, it's obvious they're punishing Trump. The globalists and the rich are punishing Trump, or trying to punish Trump, for daring to reorder the global economic order based on the working class. And now they're saying, for that, we're going to try to break your presidency by crashing the stock market. And frankly, what Trump should be doing, and his Treasury Secretary and as others are saying, is you got to go out there and explain your tariffs again and again and again. And you got to ask, first of all, you got to ask Bill Clinton, why did you allow China into the World Trade Organization? That was the greatest strategic blunder in economic history. It didn't liberalize China. It didn't create a new middle class in China. It didn't soften China. You unleashed an economic and military monster. You destroyed our working class, our industrial base. You gave away our best technological secrets, and they've engaged in the greatest military buildup the world has ever seen. It's criminal what they did, seriously. And you shipped all our jobs to Vietnam, to Thailand, to Japan, to Mexico, to Canada, to the Europeans. So we have a 20% tariff on them. They have a 39% tariff on us. We can't sell one single Ford car or truck in Europe because they're tariffing us 4 times what we're tariffing them. And you guys think, what, this is good? No, they're the ones who created this mess. Okay, I want to give a big hat tip to Kevin. Kevin up in New Hampshire, and here is exactly what he sent me. It is a very famous quote from Mark Twain. Now, you tell me if this doesn't apply today and to Trump's tariffs. Quote, "In the beginning of change, the patriot is a scarce man, and brave and hated and scorned. When his cause succeeds, the timid join him, for then it costs nothing to be a patriot." Jeff, this is what Kevin wrote me. Mark Twain said it best. I think this quote directly applies to Trump's actions and the expected cowardly response by the feckless GOP. When Trump's actions succeed, they'll all be clamoring to stand next to him and say they supported him the whole time. Bingo. Pete in Needham. Thanks for holding, Pete, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Good morning. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Pete?
I'm doing all right. So you had asked a question earlier to a caller from Plastow, and basically stated, why the anti-Trumpers are so angry. And I think it's a pretty simple answer, right? I think they think he's hateful, vindictive. They think he makes bad decisions, and they think that he challenges the sanctity of democracy when it doesn't work in his favor. And you often hear the right side, poo-poo the fact that he tries to circumvent democracy and look for examples. So I would actually like to ask you a couple questions about James Boasberg that I think provide a pretty good example of the fact that when things don't work in his favor, he tends to try to circumvent. So would you be okay with that?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So first and foremost, last week on Friday, you referred to Boasberg as a left-wing lunatic, and Trump has called for his impeachment. So you would agree that those are both accurate statements, right?
Yes.
So do you know who originally nominated Boasberg to the D.C. Superior Court?
Yes, it was George. It was George W. Bush.
It was George W. Bush. And do you know what the Senate confirmation vote was for getting Boasberg?
I don't care what the Senate confirmation vote was. Senators vote on judges all the time. They have no idea who they're voting on. What are you talking to me about? So what? What, you don't think George W. Bush or Bush 41 didn't elect people or put people on the court that are drunk with power? You're going to tell me with a straight face, look, Elena Kagan, who maybe is the most liberal member of the Supreme Court, in 2023 said that a district court judge has no constitutional authority or business issuing a temporary restraining order or a nationwide injunction on any president. This is a clear abuse of constitutional power. This judge is not a president. He doesn't control the executive branch. It's outrageous. And why do I call him a left-wing lunatic? Because he's for open borders. I look at his record. I look at what he says. I look at his daughter, who works for a globalist open borders organization that literally says no one should be deported from the United States, including violent, criminal, illegal aliens. Now, that's a blatant conflict of interest that his daughter is making money off of the fact that her father is not going to be deporting criminal illegals because he's going to block Trump, which he has no business blocking Trump. No judge has the right to tell the president who he can deport and who he can't deport when you're dealing with, remember, they are illegal aliens. They're in the country illegally. Like, are you kidding me? How many times did Biden blast the Supreme Court? How many times did Biden blast district court judges when they ruled against him? In fact, in the student loan case, forgiving student loans, the Supreme Court ruled against him. Biden said, I'm ignoring their ruling. But that wasn't a dictator then for you guys. But when Trump says, I won the election, I'm the commander in chief, I have every single right to be in control of the executive branch and of executive branch agencies, and when these out of control rogue judges clearly usurp their constitutional legal authority, and Trump criticizes them, that's a dictator. He's a king. He's a threat to democracy. No, the threat to democracy is Judge Boasberg. If he doesn't like Trump's deportation policy, run for office, win the presidency, get a mandate, and then you can have your open borders. We had it under Biden. Kamala wanted to keep it, and the American people rejected it. The only one threatening democracy is Boasberg, not Trump. Hello?
Are you there?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So he was widely regarded for being down the middle, nonpartisan.
No, you're just making that up. And I don't care if he's widely regarded or not. I'm judging him by his rulings. Here, let me ask you this. Where is the legal precedent? Show me where the constitutional precedent exists that a district court judge can literally issue a nationwide injunction beyond his district on a clearly delineated authority and power given to the President of the United States under the Constitution. Show me where. Where is it? Show it to me.
And
show it to me.
When the federal government was looking into Hillary Clinton, and a decision was made whether or not to investigate whether she was.
Well, what does this have to do with Boasberg? I mean, like, this is what I'm talking about. This is a person that went to one of those rallies on Saturday, the hands-off rallies.